But what I'm going to talk about in my section is that we're all going to die. And I am in no way arguing with that senator did. Like, I think we shouldn't have to die so soon. That is the issue.
Yeah.
We should get a long life, and it's not an equal thing
Yeah.
because of oppression. Like they're like, death is the great equalizer. It's not, because we make systems that kill people sooner than other people, and then it's not equal, actually.
It's such a
But
crazy
it's
thing to say.
inevitable.
Because, like, what if it's like a murderer? Like, oh, well, they should have been so afraid
Yeah.
of dying. Are you kidding? What are you doing? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's the hypocrisy, ultimately. It's like saying one thing about one group of people and then saying the same, like not recognizing the same exact thing for another group of people. It's just super hypocritical. And that's what our government is, ultimately. But that's a different discussion. Today we're talking about death and its inevitability and the unfairness surrounding it as a systemic issue. But death is something that's loomed over humanity and much of philosophical and religious thought for much of human existence. It's something everyone's been thinking about. Once you find out about death, your life inevitably changes forever. I've traumatized a preschooler by accident when I used to teach, and I helped them discover death happened. And it was very upsetting for both of us, because I didn't want to do that. Because I told them about presidents. They're like, where are they now? And I'm like,
not here.
not. And then we realized we shouldn't talk about presidents to like 4-year-olds yet. That's what I learned.
So funny. The kids be asking stuff. Where are they now?
Yeah, and I wasn't ready. I didn't do like a peer group to establish that was appropriate for that age group. I didn't anticipate that question, and
that's so funny.
I am stupidly honest, and it's a problem. So where we are, our mortality and its inevitability and inescapability can either be interpreted as life's greatest horror or the most beautiful thing that we end up doing. Everyone does. Eventually, we all do. And Midnight Mass and much of Flanagan's work centers around this: death, belief, legacy, and what it all means to us as people. So he likes to play with these concepts and how they intersect with things like that are more concrete in like addiction, mental health, grief, familial trauma, capitalism, religion, otherism. Like he really does like poke at the way society uses all of these beliefs and how some of it's like complicated and it's not fair in ways. So in Midnight Mass, these themes are just as present, with special focus on how these themes intersect with religious fanaticism and belief in its purest form. The big question we see grappled with over and over is, if humans believe in heaven and an afterlife, why do humans cling so heavily to consciousness? If death is inevitable and inescapable, the same question applies. Why spend time fearing and fighting something that we cannot prevent as a natural part of the life cycle? The reason, ultimately, is because there's inequity that exists and makes people die sooner, and that's fucked up. But we see many religious ideas explored in the show in a deeply emotional way surrounding death, and Flanagan proposes something interesting, which is that all the things, honestly, all the quotes you gave, Gabe, were lots of moments for me. I was like, that changed something in my mind forever. Yeah. And it was just like really impactful. Like there was just, in all of Flanagan's work, like there's just something so beautiful about how everything is said. And there's no wasted air, there's intentional silences, and anytime it's not silence, like people are saying things so beautifully.
Yeah. Like I didn't even mention
like all the monologues.
When I forget her name right now. Liza,
Mm-hmm.
and how she confronts the man who shot her, and she's like, you reached through time and you stole from me. Like you stole my future, the things I could have been, could have done. And that, I'm telling you, there's like no end to lines. Like this is it. And I get it, because he was literally like, this was my journal. Like anytime he had a profound thought of any kind of human existence, he would like, when you write it out, someone's going to say it in the show.
He made acting portfolios for these people. Like really.
Yeah.
Everyone has like a performance moment and they all deliver, every single one.
So good.
So I'm not going to quote the same part of Aaron's speech, the monologue, but there's pieces took out the part that Gabe already said, and I'll say the other pieces. So Aaron says as she's dying, the body stops a cell at a time, but the brain keeps firing those neurons, little lightning bolts like fireworks inside. And I thought I'd despair or feel afraid, but I don't feel any of that. None of it, because I'm too busy. I'm too busy in this moment remembering. Of course, I remember that every atom in my body was forged in a star. This matter, this body is mostly just empty space after all. And solid matter, it's just energy vibrating very slowly, and there's no me. There never was. I was before them, and I'll be after, and everything else is pictures picked up along the way. Fleeting little dreamlets printed on the tissue of my dying brain, and I am the lightning that jumps between. I am the energy firing the neurons, and I'm returning. Just by remembering, I'm returning home, and it's like a drop of water falling back into an ocean of which it's always been a part. All things apart, all of us apart. You, me, and my little girl, and my mother and my father, everyone who's ever been, every plant, every animal, every atom, every star, every galaxy, all of it. More galaxies in the universe than grains of sand on the beach, and that's what we're talking about when we say God. This one. The cosmos and its infinite dreams. We're all the cosmos dreaming of itself. It's simply a dream that I think is my life every time, but I'll forget this. I always do. I always forget my dreams. But now, in the split second, in the moment I remember, the instant I remember, I comprehend everything at once. There is no time, there is no death. Life is a dream, it's a wish, made again and again and again and again and again and on into eternity. And I am all of it. I am everything. I am all I am that I am. And I'm just like, yeah, you know, that's, I don't know what I believe, but I do believe that we return to the earth. We are energy. Like if we intersect science and religion together, that's what this is. Like, you know, it's both things are true. It's just we have a different how. We have a different understanding of the conceptualization of what reality is. Like, it's just a different answer, but it's still the same answer. Like, if home is like if heaven is just being with all the people you love, you returning your energy to the pool of energy with all the people you love, that's the same thing.
Yeah.
That's the same heaven.
It's all perspective. It's how you interpret it.
Yeah.
It's just like that whole thing with Riley, and he talks about the stars and how they're little campfires in the sky. I was like, it's perspective.
Yeah. And it's like all the religions have similarities for a reason. We're all just interpreting the world in some way, and our existence in it, and our concepts of death and where we go afterwards, and what energy is and what life is. And in this version, we respect life. We love life. We love the planet. We love every living thing because we are a part of every living thing. How beautiful is that? Okay. I'm sorry. I just really love, like, I was just like, that is dope, ultimately. So in unpacking that speech, we see that Flanagan is not trying to give us the answer, but an answer for what comes next. And if heaven, as we said, is all those things, it intersects everything really beautifully. So, to have almost everyone in all their different there was something I was like sad about it though too. Specifically when I first watched it, I was super conflicted that we see everyone sad. Like the ending is rough. Every single favorite character you had goes almost. There's 2 people who survived the entire thing.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
But they all do.
It happened.
Right? I mean, everybody does die. They just did it at the same time.
Yeah. And at first I was like, dang, I really wanted them to get out, you know, like there was like a part of me like hoping for a happier or like a kinder reality. And I'm like, no, but that is the world. And I think to have almost everyone and all their different viewpoints and all their different feelings and emotions all return, as you said, together, everyone did. Realizing all the desperation and clinging to life they spent the whole show doing, that death, that ending was inevitable, was powerful. It was, I wish, I still feel as the idealist inside of me, I didn't want that to be the ending. I wanted a kinder ending, but I recognize reality currently.
I love
And
a
if death
true
is our great,
Shakespearean tragedy where they all die. I love it.
see, no, I just like, don't do it. Um, Stay here forever. Mostly because I'm the one still here, and I'm like, dang, I gotta
Mm,
miss you.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
real.
it's more that if we all get to go together, cool, I'm gonna go too. But like, if I get to be left here, and then like everyone I love and I have nothing left, I'm just like, I might as well have drank the blood and become a vampire. Why did we even try to escape on this tiny boat?
It's like the rapture. You're getting left behind.
Yeah, I don't want to be left behind.
Now you understand my
Ultimate,
fear as a
if someone read me
5-year-old.
books as a kid, I would have also probably had these nightmares for like months at a time. Like my existential dread would have activated way sooner, or at least with like more
Terrifying.
context. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry that you had to experience that at such a
Don't
young
show
age.
it to 5-year-olds.
Um, no, don't do it. See, I like The Matrix.
Yeah.
That's what, and like
That's your own
Sixth Sense, that
existential.
traumatized me.
Yeah.
But it was different. It
Yeah.
wasn't everyone I love is going up to heaven and I get to stay here. That sounds awful. But neither here nor there. If death is our great equalizer, it's important to recognize the intersectionality of that. That if our mortality is sped up by socioeconomic factors perpetuated by a society and various oppressive forces, it's not a great equalizer. So while I do agree that everything and everyone dies, it would be false to call the exodus from consciousness a truly equal or equitable process. Sometimes we aren't given or afforded the things we need to be here, or we're not taken or that are taken from us. Like we're not given healthcare, we're not given resources, housing. These things are not rights in specifically America.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not given the tools we need to survive, many of us, and disproportionately, if you're not a cishet white man in the government, like you're going to be having a hard time. We aren't given the tools that we need to have a fair shot. So death is not an equalizer because we're not reaching that point on equal footing. Um, so my theory for why we cling to this version of consciousness is twofold. Uh, I think it, like when you mentioned that he liked Buddhism, I was like, I felt that. I
Mm-hmm.
saw that in there. Because first, we get attached to this version of consciousness, not because of like, I think our concept of self. It's because of who we know, the people we love, and like all of our connections. So if like existence is suffering under Buddhism, I actually read stuff from that at least, so I know a little bit about that. If existence is suffering and the key to enlightenment is to detach ourselves from the things we're attached to, like then we'll experience enlightenment, not suffering. It's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
if we're clinging to this version of existence, we're getting attached to the people and the things around us that are tangible. They're certain, they're visibly right there, and it's all encompassing because that's our reality. That's what we see and that's what we know. So it's easy to like understand. And then second, it's because in a capitalistic world filled with an abundance of suffering, we get attached to what we know. Like there's nothing like we have theories about what happens next, but we don't know. It's not something we
Mm-hmm.
can physically hold in our hands. So it's very hard to be certain of it versus like the people around us that we love and care about. So I think it has nothing to do with ourselves unless you're Bev, unless you're of the subset of humans that are Bev. And it's mostly like the people who you just won't meet in the same way ever again. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like the more we crave connection and attachment and inherent human behavior, the more we fear death because even if we are us when we leave, we won't be the exact same us again.
Mm-hmm.
The personality, the memories, the images that we get played in those last moments as we fade into the everything, we won't get that same picture again. You might go at a different time than the people you loved, so you'll be introduced back into the soup at different points. It'll be harder to find each other again.
Mm.
So I think that's why we cling to life, because we have a specific set of existing things around us, people that we love that we might not get to see again in the same way. We won't get to be connected with in the same way. So we're craving that connection. Uh, and there are people, yeah, that will leave behind, and that how we exit deeply impacts them. As someone who has been deeply impacted by the exodus of other humans, it is something that is
Same.
life changing life alter, you will never be the same again. And the way everyone in the show left those two kids on the boat by themselves, I'm just like, there is such a kinder way that we could have left our future.
Mm.
And if we are everything, shouldn't we be working and looking towards that future so that we don't leave the only two people left in our lives stranded on a boat with no resources or where to go? They're in a little tiny boat. It doesn't even have a motor. They're 30 miles from land. What are they going to do?
Well, they're not everything yet, right? They're still just themselves, which is a very isolated, like, singular view. So it's hard to think.
Yeah.
It's hard to think about everybody else. They didn't even know that they survived. They just kind of hoped that they did. They all
Yeah.
said, "I'm
And
choosing to believe that they did."
yeah. And where I'm at is I, as humans, I want us to do more than that.
Mm-hmm.
I want us to think about I don't want us to try to live forever. I want us to create a world that lives forever.
Yeah.
And then we help that so that there's not oceans and fire and everything's awful. And then the things that we hope made it to the boat don't have anywhere to go.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
So we
mean?
don't leave
We
their
want there to be
life
somewhere
on
to
fire.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my next section is what we leave behind. So ultimately, we are not taught enough about death at all. And what we leave behind when that intersects with like all the systemic things at play, but specifically capitalism. So as someone who has recently had to help close an estate, I say, if you have time, dear God, research it, make a will. If you don't even think you need one, make one. Write a list, put it in a drawer. They'll count it.
Mm.
Just say it's a will, do it. Leave letters and words for your loved ones, even if it's you're crying and it's hard, because we could all go at any time. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? That's my advice. Make a will and leave words and comfort and solace to the people you love, because we don't all enter the soup at the same time. And they're going to still be here not knowing they're everything, wondering what the heck is going on and being sad as hell. And you could make that easier for them. So please do that. That's what we leave behind. We should want better for those that we love, and even if only temporarily, so that they can enjoy the time that they have on this earth. Because if we're all fleeting memories, let them have good ones
Mm.
and find closure in our exodus. To use the ending of the show as an example, it would be a kinder ending, as I already said. I kind of like ad-libbed and then wrote stuff down. If the only two survivors of this atrocity seen in the show had more than an old rowboat to show for all the trauma that they experienced, like, so if you're leaving people behind, it'd be kinder to leave them behind with more than just a ton of trauma, no economic resources, and without the things they need to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, on a personal note, the main thing I would fear of death in like, it's not the pain of it, it's not the people, like, I want to know I'm going when I'm going so I can say what I need to say. So that's another thing that we talked about in what is it called? The movie where they're in the winter and there's wolves
Oh,
and
the
they're on the
gray.
plane, the gray, and he tells him that that's what's happening to him as it's happening, so he
Mm-hmm.
can like find peace in those final moments. The worst thing you can do is to lie to me. Ugh, I would be like
Mm.
so, because the illusion of more time. And then ultimately, that's just what life is the illusion of more time. So ultimately, the show seemed to leave us with an understanding that peace comes from living in the now and being kind to each other and not trying to cling to another day, just doing good while you have time to do good and leaving things for the people you love so that when you go into the soup, they have something to do and something to hold on to you with until they get to the soup, because it's a long time in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So let it be good. So that's kind of my 2 cents there. And just as like how in the final moments, everyone of Crockett, like other than Bev, kind of like came to terms with that. People just joined together into taking like a moment of kindness. They're singing to each other. They're, as Gabe said, like having that moment on the bridge. Like everyone is like, okay, it's inevitable. We accept it and it's fine. and let's just have these moments together while we have them. That's what life should be. And if you
Mm-hmm.
cling to life like Bev and death, you're creating a cycle of desperation and destructiveness, where you're not going to be kind to the people around you because you're just thinking of yourself. In clinging to life, we as humans are willing to do awful things and hurt each other and not acknowledge that that's what we're doing, all which is pointless when we think of how inevitable it all is. And my last little piece is about Bev because I just have a special place in my heart of disliking her. You know what I mean? Like,
She's the real
I don't
villain.
understand her and she makes me mad. So there's something interesting about the mental state of each person that we see at the close of the show, but most interesting to me because it's just so, I just can't fathom it
Mm-hmm.
in the way it was
Incomprehensible.
Bev. Yeah, I'm just like, and and the more I thought about it, the more I like really started to come to grips with it is that if Bev believes what Bev believes, accepting that there's an afterlife, the inevitability of it, Bev didn't fear death. She feared accountability above all
Mm-hmm.
things.
Mm-hmm.
She knew that Annie, Riley's mother, was right about her, that the sheriff was right about her, that everyone that said the honesty to her for the first time ever was right about her. She was not a good or kind person while she was on this earth. And in looking at the theories surrounding the afterlife, if there is a heaven, in her understanding of what the afterlife was, there is a hell. And Bev's fear was leaving this world because she wasn't going to the good place. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that made sense to me. That's why she was trying. She was like, this is the
She
only
was trying hard
version
to
of
not
life
die.
that I have. Yeah. Like she knew she wasn't going anywhere good. If she goes to the soup, she's going to be a worm next time. You know, like she's not
Yeah.
having a good, but she's going to be part of everything. I don't know. She's going to the wrong part of everything.
God loves
So,
her just as much as everybody else.
yep. So while the bulk of the town faced death and the consequences of their actions and forgave each other because they had otherwise lived kind and caring lives, Bed ran from that reality because she knew if there was a heaven in the way that she understood it, she would not go there. Death is scarier when you know you have lived a life of harm and cruelty without consequence because consequences come for you eventually. Or that's the idea. That's what guilt and shame as humans made us to think is
Mm-hmm.
that eventually we haven't gotten our punishment. We are gonna get it eventually. And all this clinging to life is just running from that inevitable future. Uh, that's another theory. But so with that character in mind, our fear of death could align with our guilt and shame surrounding the actions we took in life, and that if consequences, as I said, did not come, they will come. And that's just my 2 cents. I'm not a religious person, but
So
that
you could be a spiritual person.
I'm a spiritual person. And don't be like Bev. Bev sucks.
Don't be a Bev.
She's so mean. She's
And,
poisoning dogs.
yeah. In a world of
Um,
Bevs, be an Annie, right? Riley's
yeah.
parents, like, just like Riley, who's definitely their child, they didn't hurt anybody. They were like, no, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die instead.
Yeah, and that's a choice. Like it's not this just because everyone's doing it. You can make the choice to not do the awful thing in the face of so much awful. They were good. I'm sorry.
No, it's
I didn't
great.
realize I like the show so much.
Right? I'll tell you, the first time I watched it, I was like, this is good. I really liked the ending, and I left feeling like, wow, that was really good. But the second watch, it again, media like literacy glasses on, it hit me different, and it's gonna be hard for me to choose which one of these is good because
Will
they
we do our
all do
ratings? Yeah.
great. They do so many things, and he does
Yeah.
them well. It's so hard to do that, and this one especially, like especially knowing like how much of himself he put into it, because with the other ones he's like adapting and he's fanboying over literature and the horror genre, and then also just like intertwining that with human experience. But this is like so much
Yeah.
himself, and it's so
This is
vulnerable,
him.
and so real, and it's something that I think I get people being upset because it doesn't condemn religion, and religion can be harmful. But I think that's just the thing, is like it absolutely can be harmful, but it also can be something beautiful that people need. Um,
Yeah.
it's a tool. It's a tool. Who uses it?
Yeah.
So,
And how they use it.
yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So next week we'll talk about the Fall of the House of Usher, and we'll try to do those readings and what our emotions are. Tell us what you thought of Midnight Mass. If you're religious, what do you think happens when we die? Is there heaven or hell? Do we return to the cosmos? We're nothing but stardust, right?
Yeah.
Tell us
They'll
about it.
return to dust.
Yeah. Mike Flanagan, if you're watching this, give us a shout out. Let us know if you listen. And if
That would be
we
neat.
were on the mark, right? We were on the money. And
Yeah.
don't get married.
Delete your kids. Literally.
Yeah,
Because they'll
they
be
might eat your kids, but
vampires.
then they come back and then they die anyway. Or your kids end up
Yeah.
on a boat.
We're all in the pool, you know? The goop.
We're all going to be back to the goop.
We'll all get there eventually.
All right. Bye.
Bye.